In this course, we're going to be building a YouTube clone. So to get started with, I'll show you how to upload a video. So I'm going to go ahead and select a random video such as this one, which is in 4K. And I'm just going to go ahead and put hello world as the description text here. Going to add in this as the tag. And I'm going to go ahead and select a date here. As you can see, it's processing the video now in the background. While it's processing this video, it's generated a preview image from the video itself. It's created a standard definition format already, and it's now going to be processing to create HD and 4K. So I'm going to go ahead and create a thumbnail for this. I'm going to upload this one, I think. And as you can see now, this thumbnail has been uploaded, which is perfect. We can now either wait till it processes in here, or we could even just click up and click publish. And as you can see, we now have a new video here. I can go ahead and I can change the quality of the video. And as the video processes, more qualities will become available, such as Full HD and 360p. You can like or dislike the video. You can preview on the slider here, which is something that you need to generate what's called a DTT file for using FFMpeg, which is what we're going to be using to processing the video. Along with that, we're also generating a view every time we view it as a unique person, so it will only generate one view per user. You can go ahead and see which video is trending, which is based on how many views the user has. If we, for example, went into the table here and wanted to generate 1,000 views for a given video, I've created a function here we can use. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and make sure we relate this to a video. So I'm going to say video number 42 in here. Run it. And if we now go ahead and look here, you can see that we've generated 1,000 views for this video. And it's automatically abbreviated into 1,000 views, so it looks a bit neater and cleaner. When you go ahead and click here, you can see that the video is actually previewing in real time upon hovering it. This is a functionality YouTube implements as well on the homepage. So if I, for example, wanted to go in and view my channel, I can also do that. I'm able to view the videos I've uploaded, which is these two. And I could also go ahead and customize it, such as changing the about page, saying this is my channel. Welcome to my new channel. Gonna save this, and you can see that it automatically updates this along with saying how many views you have, the total number of subscribers, and the total views. I've also gone ahead and created a new user here as well, and you can see I can view my channel here and I've subscribed to it. So if I go ahead to my channel Matilde, I can then unsubscribe or subscribe to it. It works really smoothly. I'm also able to change the banner image if it's my own channel, but not if it's someone else's. So if I go ahead here, I could go in and change this to, let's say, the banner image like this, for example. It will still just update automatically, but you will see that it will be updated in this case. I could also go ahead, for example, and change it to another image, but that doesn't look very nice. So it's just pretty much automatically updating it. Along with that, we can also go ahead and just check back on this video now. You can see that it's now been processed all the way up to 4K. And we can then watch the video in the full resolution. So outside of that, it also contains the functionalities upon when you create an Laravel app using Breeze or Jetstream, where you can enable two-factor authentication and change the profile picture and so on. You're able to search, where it comes down with an auto suggestion that you can click on, and you can then see we have this video available here, just like before. This is all built using Livewire 3, and we're going to be going over most of these features in the next couple of weeks, and some of it will be going into February. Outside of that, that's all for this video, and let's head on to the next video where we will get started installing the project. I've gone ahead and created a new Laravel application. I've already set up the database configuration here, and make sure you run npm I and npm run dev and keep this running in the terminal below, just so that it uses the hot reload, which makes it easier. So to get started with, let's go ahead and install Laravel Jetstream, which we're going to be using for Livewire. So I'm going to go ahead and just require Laravel Jetstream. If you haven't created a Laravel project already, you can just copy this command here, and it will allow you to create your Laravel application. So I'm going to open up a new terminal, and I'm going to require Jetstream. So outside of that, all we need to do is just install Jetstream like this. It will then go ahead and scaffold a lot of different configurations and routes in your views folder, and it will also go ahead and generate certain things such as the login and registration process. So for this welcome page, we don't really need that anymore, so we're going to go ahead and override that once it's done down here. Now it's important to note that you should only install Jetstream on new applications, otherwise you may end up with some issues when you're using it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to call this home for this root, and I may actually already now go ahead and create a home controller. So once we have done that, we will make sure that we can pass in all the relevant data there. So I'm going to go ahead and just create a home controller in a second. So I'm going to comment that out, and I'm going to make a controller called home controller, make it invocable, and I'm going to import this class. I'm going to name this root home. I am going to rename this root to home. I'm then going to go ahead and say return view home. And in here we want to just basically, let's just copy the terms page because that makes it easier, and then just get rid of everything in here except for the guest layout, and just pass in home here. So I'm going to go ahead and close this down. You can see we now have an error here, and this error is happening because we need to pass in the name here. So now we should get another error, which is because we don't have some issues with the sessions table here. So let's go ahead and see what's going on. So I'm going to go into migrations folder. I'm going to make sure we have migrated everything. Just want to do one bit of change to the user table. I'm going to add a username, and I'm going to make that unique. And outside of that, what we also want to have is a string for the banner image for the YouTube channel that can be nullable. And we also want a channel description here, which can also be nullable. And outside of that, let's go ahead and migrate this now. Now we will get an issue in here, such as we want to use the app layout. And this will give us an error. The reason for that error is because we are trying to get user details without checking first. So this is part of the Laravel default configuration, where they have a layout for people who are signed in and not signed in. We're going to make one single layout which uses this navigation menu. So I'm going to go into this navigation menu here, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure that everything that has the auth username and the settings drop down is all with authentication required only. I'm going to go ahead and make sure this is a bit nicer spaced out. And we now get an issue in the responsive links. So let's go ahead down here and make sure we don't have this issue anymore. So I'm just going to check for the name field again. And in here, we just want to make sure that we close these down here. And we can actually get rid of the team management feature. We're not going to use that. So I'm going to just put this inside an auth again. And outside of that, I just want to make sure that we also put this one in here in auth. There we go. So that's now set up here. So we have the default navigation set up. So what we want to go ahead now is install Meilisearch. So I'm going to be installing this manually. So let's go ahead and see what that requires. This require Livewire as well. And make sure we require Meilisearch. I want to make sure that Livewire also using a new version. So I'm using version 3.3. So if you're experiencing any bugs of the like, make sure you are on the latest version of Livewire. And outside of that, I'm just going to go ahead and run this command, but for npm, because we're using npm in this instance, Modal. And we also want to make sure inside our tailwind configuration that we add in this bit here. So let's go down here and make sure we have tailwind properly set up as well. We want to require Daisy UI, which is the UI Meilisearch is based upon, along with the forms and typography. And let's try to run npm run dev now. Just check that the whole application is still working, which it is. Perfect. And outside of that, what we just want to make sure is that we have everything set up standard for Livewire, that we can go ahead and configure the layout a little bit. So we need to add in this toast here so we can create the relevant notifications for a user inside our layouts. So I'm going to add that just below the banner here. And I'm going to make sure we have that both login and the guest page. Outside of that, we don't really need to add any of these other configurations in except for the body class. So let's go ahead and add that in now. And the application still seems to be working. So outside of that, we don't need to set any other things up because we're going to be using a different sort of menu to achieve the likes of YouTube's design. So the first thing we want to do in this course is essentially to set up the registration process so you can register a user. So first and foremost, inside the navigation here, I'm going to go in here and add two different links. So where we have our link for the drop down, we are just going to go ahead and make sure we have some login and register links as well. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure we close this drop down here. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And I'm going to go ahead and create two different links here using the xnav link. I am going to go into the login page here. And we're also going to make sure we have to register. Now there's a few components that Jetstream already comes with, and it's also existing within Laravel UI. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and delete some of these components, such as the input component here. We don't need that because that's already in there. We don't need the welcome component. And I also don't think we need the drop-down components because those are also part of it there. We're going to be looking at the drop-down component just a bit later on. So what we want to do now is go into our auth directory, into our login and register. So we don't need the label anymore because what you can do with MariUI is you can just say label email / username. We're going to allow the user to log in with a username or email. And same thing in here, we can just say label password. And for the register page, we want to do the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all these labels. And I'm going to go ahead and say name, email, password, and we're just going to call this confirm password. Outside of that, we just want to quickly create one for the username here. So with that done, let's go ahead and click on the register page. You can now see we have this label here. It's all working out fine. The problem right now we will experience if you go ahead and try to register users that the username will not work. So let's see what happens then. And I'm just going to go ahead and add in a random email. And this will fail as well because it needs to be, first and foremost, we need to delete the button in here because that's not needed anymore. And outside of that, we want to basically go into our register page again and make sure we use a type of submit. So this shouldn't have gone ahead and worked yet because we can't register a user before we have essentially allowed the user to register, which we need to customize. So if I go ahead and click anything here, you will see this gives an error, and that's because we have not passed in a username because we haven't customized the flow. So there's two things we need to do here. First and foremost, we want to go to the user model. And in here, we want to make sure we have username. Then let's go back to the create users table. Make sure we have the banner image as well and the create channel description as well, because those two also needs to be fillable, which we're going to be using later on. So inside 45, we can create customize to create a new user class. And in here, we can go ahead and say username. So we're going to validate the username here. We're going to make it unique to the users, just like we do with the email. And we're also going to make it a max of 255 and a string. And the same in here, when we're creating the user, we also want to make sure that we are using a username. So if I go ahead now and then try to just create one here, you'll see that it should work now. The reason why this isn't working is because it's trying to generate a welcome view. So let's find out where that is going wrong. So this error is happening because the dashboard page doesn't have the welcome component anymore, and we don't want that. So that's where the error happens. Now we want to hide these two links for logged in users. So let's go ahead and do that now. In here, we want to make sure that this is only for guests. You can see that. And now we're getting an error unable to locate drop-down link, and that's because if you look at Mary UI and go to the drop-down, you will notice that we have this X menu item instead of a drop-down link. So what we want to go ahead now and do is actually just go in wherever there is a drop-down link. We want to just go ahead and replace these. I am going to go ahead and delete the Teams one again because we really don't need that. So no reason to work on that. Just makes the file longer. So I'm going to go ahead in here and just use an X menu item. And in here we can also specify the label or the title. And we can also specify what happens when you click on it or all those sort of areas. But we can also specify, because what essentially happens here is it extending the menu. You can see we can actually provide a link. So instead of calling this HEIF, we're going to call this link. For all of the ones that's called menu item. I'm going to delete this block here because we don't want that anymore. And it may actually be easier as well if we just go inside and remove the whole menu and then we start from scratch. So I'm going to delete this now. And in here I'll just show you an example of how we can build this. So we're going to create an X drop down. And in here we want to have an X slot trigger where we're basically going to put in the username in that. So we want to have a flex in here that senses the items and have a margin left 5. And this will probably fail now because with uploading image photos, we want to go into JetStream. And in here we want to enable profile pictures, which is perfect. So now this works. All right, so with that sorted, let's go ahead and make sure we have the relevant links. So for now, all we really need is the account settings and the logout function. So if I click this now, you can see we have these two here. I've gone ahead and already add the links here and the code just to save you some time with typing it out. And then outside of that, what we really want to do for this is we want to go into our update user information page. We want to create a username here. And we also want to have the same validation rule here because it's treated as a unique one. We want to force fill the username. And then outside of that, what we want to do is inside this page called profile, there's an update profile information page here where we can go ahead and copy the works in here and also make sure that we fix the errors in here. So we want to put in a label of name instead, a label of email. I'm going to go ahead and create the username now. And with that sorted, we just want to go ahead and repeat the same thing for the update password form where we have this issue as well. Call this current password. And confirm password. And outside that, there may be a few areas in here where we also want to make sure we get rid of the label here, for example. Just want to call this code. And we want to make sure this has a type of submit. And if we look at the MariUI configuration here, you can see in the form components, which we can create as well, we could actually customize it here. I'm not going to go ahead and do that in this video so it doesn't get too long, but that would essentially allow us to customize this a bit more toward MariUI. So just want to make sure we add in the type of submit. And let's go ahead and see what happens in our account settings. So you have this username here. So what if we want to go ahead and update it now? And refresh, and it's all updated. Perfect. So we now have the ability to edit the username, to log in, and register the user. The only other thing I want to do now is I want to go ahead into the auth service provider. But no, sorry, not the auth service provider, but the Fortify service provider. And in here, I want to make sure we change some code in here for when we are authenticating. So Fortify, authenticate using, we want to pass through a closure here. And it takes through a login request as a request. And then here we just want to make sure we have where a user equals to user, where email is request identity, or where username is request identity. And then we want to grab the first one. So I'm just going to put this into a new line to make it look a bit cleaner. And then we just want to say if user and hash, and we just want to check whether the request password is the same as user password. And if that's the case, we just want to return user. That should allow us to log in with the username. Only other thing we want to change is in the fortify.php file is we want to rename these two to identity. And then inside the login.blade.php file, we want to make sure that we have this one named as identity. So we also want to make sure this is a type of text, because now it can be a username. Let's log out and see if this works with the username. And you will see it doesn't work because we haven't added this submit in here. And let's just double check that the username is the correct detail here. So it's okay, so this currently is failing. So let's just quickly check some stuff in here first. Just making sure we haven't made any spelling errors. We also want to change the home to home later on instead of having it as the dashboard, but we will do that later. So inside our Fortify service provider, let's just double check we're using the right code here and we didn't import the wrong class. So I'm going to try again and see if this worked. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and try with the email address and see if that works. Yeah, okay, so it's working with the email address. Currently where it is failing is with the username. So let's just double check why that may be. Let's change this to a lowercase username. Okay, so it's not because it's case sensitive, but the error is happening because we haven't customized this properly. So we just need to make sure that we're checking where the username is, where the request password, returning the user. Inside Fortify, we're using the username and the identity. So I'm gonna just go ahead and check if this helps out, making sure that it still returns to the dashboard. And there we go. So I think the issue was in the configuration file where we have made some spelling errors. So that should be all for this video. Thank you very much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next one. Alright, so in this video we're going to be customizing and adding the sidebar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all of this into a div component, and in here we're going to have an aside. And we want to have this as an area label as sidebar for accessibility purposes. We also want to make sure we have a class here saying fixed. We want to have the top to the 0. We want to have left 0. We want to have C40, H screen. Transition is going to be transform with a translate, X full, background of white, border R, border gray 200. And on smaller devices, we also want to make sure that we have translate set to X0 and dark BK background color gray 800, as well as a dark border gray 700. Alright, so that's basically the main part of the sidebar. So let's see what we have now. Just gonna pass in a little bit of text just to see. Okay, so it looks like this. Not much of it so far. So what we want to go ahead now and do is we want to create a div in here. We want to pass through a class of page full px3, pb4, overflow y auto, bg white, and dark bg gray 800. And then we want to add in a couple of links. So to start out with, let's having a list with a space y of 2, font medium, and just have one li in here with an anchor tag. We're going to use wire navigate. Gonna say route home, and then outside of that, what we also want to make sure we have is when we are on route is home, we want to make sure we're specifying it's the current page, and then we want to have class, and in here we want to have again the request route is home, and let's just say we have a bg gray of 900, text wide, hover bg gray 700, and nothing if it's not selected. And then we want to go in and add flex item center and a p2 text gray 900, rounded large, and a dark text wide, hover bg gray 100, and a dark hover bg gray 700, and group it. And then inside this we want to add in some icons. So in here we can essentially go into here and go to the icons page, and in here we can compose require these two, so we have all the relevant icons installed. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. While that's installing, let's type out the icons we want. We want an X icon name with a FAS at home. This is font awesome I'm using here. And nothing more in here. We just want to have span with a flex 1, ms3, and white space no wrap. And then just call this home. And obviously we don't want to say request with a $sign. We want to just say request as a function. We're not inside a controller. And there we go. So that's the first part of the sidebar. Now, outside of that, I just want to make sure that our navigation bar has the correct styling. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that now. Instead of typing it all out again, I'm just going to copy and paste this in. We have fixed the top zeros and set 50 with full same background color. The only difference is really that we're having all this here. Then inside app.blade.php, I'm going to get rid of the header because we do not need that in this course. And I'm also going to make sure that we have some spacing in our main slot. So we want to say space P4 MT20 and a small screen ML64. And then inside the navigation, to make sure this shows properly, again for the side, also just want to make sure that we pass through a C. 50. Perfect. So this is pretty much done now. You could add a bit more spacing potentially. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that all of this is properly typed out. And there we go. So this looks a bit nicer now, with all of this a bit better typed out. So now that we've gotten rid of that, let's just make sure that we're also having the correct styling in app.css. And I'm just going to go ahead and change the background color of the body. And just check why this is showing here some space here. So we have this I'm going to pull down on the side. And let's just see what's going on here. So just going to go ahead and inspect this element here. Maybe it's because we inside the dashboard have this background color of white here. And inside the home page we have just this div here. So let's go ahead and make sure we have this specified here. Get rid of the slot because we don't need that anymore. And outside of that, I just want to also change a little bit of styling inside here, the navigation. So we have it all the way out to the side here instead. And we don't really need the responsive navigation anymore because that's going to be on the sidebar. And then we're also having an error here because we didn't close this properly. So let's just double check why this is happening. So we have this anchor tag here. Problem though is that we are not closing this correctly. Alright then, that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next one. Alright, so in this video we're going to be creating the model and the upload button for the upload video. We're not going to be doing anything but just creating the model. So let's make a Livewire, make upload video. And inside the blade template, I'm going to leave this blank for now. I'm going to go ahead and close some of these other tabs that we won't be needing. I'm going to go ahead and open up upload video inside the Livewire directory here inside Livewire upload video. And in there we need to add a toggle model functionality so we can create that nice neat model we had from the introduction. So to get started with, let's just create a boolean called Modal, and we'll set that to false. Then what we want to do is we want to create a function which is called Modal, and we want to say on, important that you include this use attributes on Modal. And then in here we just want to say this model equals the opposite of the value, so it always change. So now if we go back into MeiUI, you can see we can go to the model page here, and in here we can get the very basic sort of a model, just with a title and nothing more. So let's go ahead and do that. I am gonna just call this upload video, and as you can see down here, we can actually attach this to a wire model. So why not go ahead and do that nice, saying wire model called model. And outside of that, we could add the slot actions now, but we don't need them right now, so I'm gonna leave it. Just gonna add in a title saying upload video, and just put some hello world text in here for now. So if we go back into navigation menu, we can go around where we have this drop down, and here we can create a button which is only showing if you're authenticated, because we don't want this to show for guests. And then here we can then say X button, label it upload video, and then say wire click. In this case, or actually we will not use wire here, we use add click for Alpine. This is an Alpine function, and we will just say wire dispatch to the model. And we just want to have this as a class of BTN primary. So let's go ahead and log in as a starter, because we haven't been logged in for a bit. Perfect. You now see this model here. So now what should happen is upon clicking on this, it should show, but it isn't. So let's check what's just going wrong here. So we have wire.dispatch, toggle model, we have this upload video model here, and we just want to make sure this is attached to this model. And outside of that, all I just want to do now is just to double check if it works now. Okay, let's try to die dump value, see what's going on here. So it's not even calling that. I'm gonna try to restart the npm. Just going ahead to check that we haven't forgot anything for the button either. Just gonna try to see if this works. So nothing is still happening. So let's check. Add this into div maybe, just because sometimes Livewire does complain about that. And the only other issue I can see is obviously because we forgot to include it down here in the component. So we need to have this obviously listed in here for it to be able to be listened to. So now that we've done that, all we should see is a DIDOM now of 1. Perfect. So if I go back in, I can then remove the DIDOM. And it is now being triggered, but we just need to make sure that this is done correctly as well inside the upload video. try to get rid of the div here actually. Currently there is no errors, which is a bit strange. Just gonna make sure we have actually included the correct place as well. So it should be the last one down here. We may as well also just add in the wire key of upload video. And outside of that, what else can we double check here? Let's just double check we're not missing anything for the model component. So I'm gonna go ahead and just add these actions here just to see what that will make it look like when we get to it as well. Alright, so I guess the issue could also be here with the upload button is that while we are calling this in here, so if I go ahead and die on this model at the end of it, it is set to true. The question is what's going on inside this model here. So I'm gonna put this at the front, and I'm gonna remove the ID because I don't know if the ID may be interfering with it. Yeah, that's it. So I believe if we go ahead now and remove the item, at the moment it is still showing. So what I probably want to go ahead and do as well is to make sure that we are not interfering with anything inside the component here. So essentially inside the navigation menu here, we're clicking and then we're dispatching the model. And the issue here is actually that we want to call this wire model, not model. So that's why it's consistently showing. But if I now go ahead, refresh the page, click the model, I can click outside of it and it works fine. So that's all for this video. We have now got the ability to go to account settings, to upload a video, model design and that. Only other thing I want to leave off with before I leave is just to actually get rid of this link for now, because we don't really want any links in here. And I'm gonna change the text in here to config app.name, and let's make this wire navigate and font mono and text to Excel, and there we go. And then in the next video we are going to be working on uploading videos and chunking the uploads to make sure that we don't get any issues when we're uploading larger video files. So that's all for this video. Please hit the like button and the subscribe button as well, and I'll see you in the next video. So in this video we're going to be setting up the video model and the relationships to it. So we're going to create a model called video with a migration, and I'm going to go ahead and just open this up now. So inside the video model, what we want to have is essentially a couple of things in here. So you want to have the title field, we want to have the description, and we want the original file as a string. And I also want this to be nullable for the description, and the same for the original file path. We're then going to go ahead inside here and then create a thumbnail path, and we're going to create a v2t file, which is the one you see when you automatically preview on the slider in the video. We're also needing the use ID, so we need a foreign ID, use ID, constrained users, and it's going to be cascade on delete. And we want a boolean as well for it to be processed. We want the ability to check when it's live, and we want a process percentage. So that's all for the video model. Let's go ahead and migrate that. Perfect. So inside the video model, let's go ahead and set up a few relationships here. So every video belongs to a user. And every user can have many videos. Okay, so the next class we want to, or the next model we want to go ahead and create is called the video format model. So in the video format model, we want to have the different qualities of the video, such as 4K, 2K, 720p, and so on. So we only need a few things in here. In here we will need things such as the ability to check the quality of it. We need a file path, and then we just need it to be related to foreign ID here. And then outside of that, we don't really need anything else in here, because that would be enough for us to essentially work with that data. So I want to go back to the video model, and each video can have many formats. Gonna make sure you also import this class. And that's actually all for the video model. We have the video formats model, and we have the video model, and that's everything we need for that. So let's go ahead and migrate that. And that should be everything. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next video. So let's go ahead and get started with styling this. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a form. For now, I'm gonna leave it completely empty. And in here, we wanna essentially just have a div with a label. The label should be the class where we have flex, w full, height for 40, and we will have a border 2 and a border gray 400 with a border dash. Justify center, and then we're going to have the items center as well. And all we want in here is really just two things. We want a span, and then we want an input field. for file. This input field will be hidden. We will have an ID of video. And then in here for the for class, I'm gonna put this down to a new line to make it look a little bit nicer. I'm gonna make this for video. And then here we want to have an X icon with a name of FAS dot upload and a label of upload video. So make sure you go ahead and run npm run dev as well for this. And you can see we now have this from the introduction series. So I want to actually hide these actions. I don't want to show them now because at the moment all we just want to do is to be able to upload a video. And if I click this, you know, I can select anything. I can select the video, but nothing obviously happens. So how are we going to upload this? So if we just uploaded at, let's say, 5 GB video file, you would most likely have timeouts and it would be a very, very big request. So instead what we can do is we can chunk the upload. And to do that, what we can do is we can go ahead and install this upchunk package for the front end to chunk it. And then what we can go ahead and do is for this video, we're gonna work on setting up the basic of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and have some X data here for the alpha component. And then here we want to have an uploader of null. We will have a progress of 0, which we're going to come back to later. We're not going to be using that at first. We're going to have a submit function. And inside the submit function, we want to have a const file equals to refs file.0. And in here, let's say console log file. I'm going to go ahead and close this now because that's fine on that end. And obviously we need to hook this up. So I'm going to go ahead and say X on change to prevent submit. So let's go ahead and refresh that. And we're getting an error. Cannot read undefined properties of file. So obviously for this we also want to make sure that we have this as an xref file because we're going on to refs here, so that should fix the problem. And there we go. So that's all for this video. Next video we're going to be looking at how to chunk it to the backend, and then we're going to be storing the original video, and then later we'll be moving on to processing the video so that we can process it into various different formats. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button, and comment below if you have any features you would like to see in this application. So in upload video Livewire component, we want to go in and have a function in here which we're going to be using. This function is going to be when we are essentially chunking the video through. So I think I'm going to call this function handle chunk. For now I'm just going to dump on the result just to see that it works. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and check in here if file isn't there. Then we just want to return it. Gonna get rid of that console log thing. And then outside of that, we want to make sure that we have some functionality here. So we will actually assign this uploader to create upload. And then here we want to have a file, which is a file. We want to have an endpoint, which is going to be video.upload. We want to have headers, because this doesn't pass through the CSFI token because we're using it in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and say XCSFI token. I should be finding that in. And outside of that, we want to specify the method as post. And we want to have a chunk size of 10 times 24, which is 10 megabytes. So this will essentially go ahead and upload it. And then we want to just listen for progress changes, when it's successful and so on, and basically deal with it from there. So if I go to web.php, in here I just want to go ahead and create a root. I want to create this in the auth verified root, so you need to have a verified user. And I want to do a post called video upload, and we're just going to say upload video. And just import the class. Make sure you give it the name here. And as you can see, we just import this class up here, the Livewire component. Okay, so what else do we need in here? I think we should leave it for this for now, just to see what happens. So I just want to make sure that this endpoint is now reached. So if we go to YouTube test, I'm gonna go ahead and log in. Make sure that you're running npm, because I'm not. That's why it looks a bit different, because we haven't actually run npm run build. So if you run build, it would look different. So just run dev. Giving it a refresh will make it look like this. And let's see what happens in the console log. Create upload is not defined. So what we want to do here is we want to go into our app.js file thing. We want to set a basically the create upload. So we want to import create upload from the chunker, and then just set it to create upload. Refresh it. It should give a 500 because we are die dumping. So let's just go back in and return 0. You can see it says many requests here. That's because we're chunking it into multiple different files, and then we're gonna combine them all into one big file later on that will then allow us to upload it as a whole video without having to upload a massive file in one go. So what we want to go in and do now in here is basically handle the chunk, but we're going to do that in the next video. And then we're going to store the file, and we will be able to then compress the file into various different formats. so that we can play the video in 4K, 2K, and 720p and so on. And that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and please hit the like button. Over the next couple of episodes, we're going to be focusing on processing videos and allowing the user to essentially choose between different qualities and other general user experiences. So to do that, because FFmpeg is quite a heavy load on your servers, you don't want that to run in a single request. You want to queue it up in a job. And essentially what we have to do in this case is we have to use a program such as Laravel Horizon, which will help us create more user-friendly interface to manage our queues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to install Horizon as a starter. Just compose a required like you normally would, and then just run this PHP Artisan Horizon install. Now, one of the requirements for this is that you have some sort of server such as Redis set up, something like that. I'm using Laravel Herd, which is what I'm using to basically generate this neat URL here, and basically just my server management tool. But for database and other things, I'm using something called DB Engine, which I don't think is currently available on Windows. So if you're a Mac user, what you can do is you can download this and you can set up a Redis server. If you are on Mac, what you can do, no, on Windows, sorry, what you can do is you can go to, for example, stuff like Homestead, where you may be able to run a server that on Ubuntu where you can have Redis on. There's also other options available on Windows. I'm not going to go into details about how to get it working on either operating system. You don't have to use Redis as a queue driver. You can use a different queue driver if need be. But essentially, this is how I'm going to be doing it, and I'll show you how to configure it throughout the process. So with that sorted, make sure you download this software if you're using Mac. This is going to help you significantly and make your process so much smoother. And then we want to go ahead and just install FFmpeg. And to do that, we want to go ahead and compose required. And then another important part of it is actually to set up the configurations. Now, I already know where my FFmpeg is located, so I can easily show you how to locate them as well, which I'm going to do now. So basically, for me, because I'm using Homebrew and I've installed this via Homebrew, so brew install, and then I've just gone ahead and download FFmpeg there. It's super easy. But if you were going to, for example, be using a different software, you would, for example, on Windows, you may need to download source files. So you need to set these configurations up. And the way you find out where it is by running which FFmpeg and which ffprobe, which will allow you to basically find the URL file and you just copy this in. And by doing that, you can then use this in your application. And that's the best way and the easiest way to do this. There may be other ways to do it as well, but I would recommend using this approach. So now that we have gotten that set up, let's go ahead into our Laravel Horizon, and you can see if we go to youtube.test/Horizon that we have this available here. So the only other thing you want to do is essentially set up the queue driver. Or the queue connection to be Redis. And make sure you have the correct port set as well. And the correct configuration for Redis here. So I'm just going to go ahead and replace these to my relevant configuration. You can determine what port you want. You just use this software DB Engine and you can do all of it there, which will work smoothly. So that's all for this video. I just wanted to show you how to set these things up that we're going to be using over the next couple of episodes to process the video. please hit the like button, the subscribe button, and let me know if you have any issues with installing these programs in the comments below. Alright, so let's get started by creating a new job. So any of you want to say PHP artisan, make job, and let's call this encode video. And inside encode video, we are going to make sure that we have a couple of things set up. So first and foremost, this is quite a heavy queue. It's going to take some time to run, especially the longer the video. So we're going to set timeout to 0. We're going to make sure inside our Horizon, the PHP, that we also have some settings here. So inside Horizon, the PHP, what you want to make sure that is that you have a timeout inside here, and we want to set that to maybe like 600. So with that sorted, let's go ahead and see what we want in. We want to require a video being passed through. So what we can do now is we can essentially go ahead into our encode video, and we want to define a set of qualities. And in here we want to have 360 with a bit rate of 800. We want to have 720 with a bit rate of 2500. 1080p with a bit rate of 5000. And 2160 as well. And then we want to grab a media using the FFmpeg from the Laravel Proton Media FFmpeg. We want to get from disk public. We want to open the original file path. We then want to specify video dimensions, which we get from the stream, the video stream. Then we want to iterate through qualities as quality with the specs in here. And in here we want to say if video dimensions get width is greater than or equal to specs width and video dimensions get height is greater than or equal to specs, and let's just make sure we have that there, height. Then in that case we want to go ahead in here and say format equals to new, and we just want to get the x26 with the AAC libx264 and set the bit rate here. And then we want to export this. We just want to say media export, and then here we just want to say in disk or to disk, sorry, public, and let's make sure we put this onto a new line, and we want to say in format. We want to specify a filter here to resize it. In here we want to have a function where we have the video filters imported with the filters. Use specs, and in here we just want to say filters.resize. And then outside of that, what we also want to make sure we do is inside here we want to have the file name as an str random. Let's make sure you import that with a length of 10, or actually 16, sorry. Quality MP4. Then export save inside exports, and We actually don't need that dash there. Then we just want to say the file name. And then inside video, formats create, we want to have to name the file path. And that's basically everything for this. This is quite a mouthful to go through. So what we're doing is basically just iterating over each quality up to 4K. And we're then getting the dimensions and setting the bitrate, resizing the video to the different qualities, and we're then storing it into video formats models. We want to go back into video format. We want to make sure we have protected fillable set. And we want to just go back into create video formats table. And here we want to have quality, file path, and video ID. And in here we also want to specify the quality. And we're going to just specify this as quality. And yeah, that's basically everything for this. So the only other thing we need to do now is just making sure inside handle success is that we do encode video dispatch with the video in there. We then want to make sure you run FFMpeg Horizon and go back in here. We want to then run this, put a video through, and then when it's uploaded, what we will see is this queue being dispatched in here. Assuming we did everything correctly. So now it's running and it's failed. Okay, so let's look at what we forgot to do here. So what you can do is you can go inside the logs, laravel.log, and if we head all the way back here down to the bottom of it, we're getting this error in here. So let's just double check what we've done wrong. So we're using the correct format, just making sure that we're using the correct imports, and I haven't imported the wrong file. I've just updated the imports with the original code. And let's check as well, what else do we need to double check? Let's try to head back in and see if we can fix it now. And we also need to restart the job because it catches it. So this one may definitely fail. Let's try again. Okay, so it's still failing. Alright, so I think it's looking into, we're basically not giving it the right folder to look for. So let's just double check here. I think we need to say this is inside this called public. And if we just restart the queue, let's try again. I'm just going to delete the log because it's getting quite long, just to make sure we can read it easier next time. It's taking a bit longer this time, so that's a really good sign. It does take a while to export each individual one, so what we should see at some point in here is in the public folder we should see some data if it's working correctly. So I'm just going to come back when this is run and let's take a look at it. Alright, so it's definitely worked so far. We've already exported to 364. And now it's failed, and that may be because of a timeout issue. Yeah, so we're having a timeout issue because it's quite a long video. So it is working. What we just need to fix now is basically just inside Horizon. Just make sure we set the timeout to maybe, let's say, 2000 and tries to bit more as well. So what I set it to personally was around that, and I would say again it can take some time to process, especially the larger the video, because we're exporting it into various different qualities. So let's go ahead and restart the queue and try again. I'm not gonna go ahead and wait this time, but I'll just show you what I mean. Like if we find a very low quality file, or like for example this is 102 megabytes, whereas the other one was uh actually it was lower. I think that one we used. But if we just choose a very small file size, so let's say date and sort by size, and this is one of the largest video files we have. So what if we go back in here and then look at this one is very small, so let's take that one just for sake of speed. We're now going through that, and there you go. So that's all for this video. I'm gonna come back for another video where we're gonna go a bit more into detail with the processing of the videos. Thank you very much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next one. Alright, let's go ahead and start our progress bar that we later I'm gonna be basically showing when we're uploading. So let's get started by just saying template, and we only want to do this if the upload is set. And then in here we want to have space y of 1, and we want to have an x progress. And let's just set value to 50 for now, just to see that it's there, out of 100. So it shouldn't show unless we upload a video. There we go, perfect. So what we want to go ahead now and do is we want to bind this to the progress value, which is obviously right now going to be 0. X bind value. And then we want to go in here and listen to this uploader on progress, this progress of detail. So if we go ahead and upload a video now, and we want to avoid setting the value in here to anything but progress, obviously. So let's refresh this. And then you can see now it's actually updating itself. And that's how we can listen for changes and uploading, see how long it takes to upload the video. So you can see in the request tab, we're still sending requests through. I'm just gonna make it a bit larger. And that's basically everything for just tracking the progress. So that's how you will do that. So if you want to optimize it, we can potentially look at that later on, but for now the next step in the video will be to being able to store details of the video, such as description, tags, and thumbnail. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. So in this video we are going to be allowing the user to, we're not going to save it, but we're going to outline how it would look like when the video is uploaded and the fields that we provide for that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up upload video.php, and in here let's take a look at what we want. We want the ability to essentially know if the video has been uploaded. So just going to pass in this boolean here, and in here, what we want to do is upon video being uploaded, we want to set that to true. So where are we going to do that? Now, we could do this in the handle success method, or we could potentially also do it on the front end, but I'm going to do it in the handle success method. So with that sorted, let's just go ahead and take a look at our uploaded video PHP file. So in here, we want to make sure that we have a few things set. So we don't want to show the label basically, or this whole div potentially, you could say, but we definitely don't want to show this upload one here if progress equals 0. And in here we want to say if uploaded and if, and what we want to do then is just making sure we have a X form. I'm going to leave the submit to be a function called update video. So let's go ahead and create that function quickly. We're not going to do anything in here in this video. We're just going to create the function briefly. And then inside this form, all we want to do is have a few different things outlined. So I want to go ahead and make a div with the class of space y2 to have some spacing between them. I want to go ahead and say, in this case, we want to have an X input. And let's say the X input should have label called title and a Y model called form.title. So we want to create Livewire form, and we want to call this upload video form. Or I think the command may be called so I want to just go ahead and check the commands here. Then just search for Livewire. Let's try PHP Horizon Livewire form. And then here we just want to call this upload video form. And I just want to go ahead in here and making sure that we have this set up. So let's just call this public upload video form as form. And inside this form, we just want to have a few different things such as then we want to have a public string as tags and public thumbnail. This may actually be stored as an array, so yeah, let's leave it like that. And I'm going to call this thumbnail path. Alright, so with that sorted, let's go ahead and make sure that we have this properly set up. So for this now, all I want to go ahead and do is make sure we also quickly validate these. Just say validate. And for now, let's just set them all to required. You may have different specifications for that. So, and outside of that, we want to make sure we have an X text area. And then here we just want to have a hint of max 1000 characters. Put this in as form description. and then we want to have an X tags component with an ID of tags, label tags, and formula tags as the one there. And outside of that, we also need some other forms in here, but for now, let's just go ahead and see what it looks like when we have actually successfully uploaded the video. So as you can see, this progress bar is still showing. So we want to go ahead upon success of this form in the Alpine code here. Say this.uploader on success. We want to set the upload to null, and we want to set the progress to 100. And let's try again. There we go. And it's a little bit buggy, so just try one more time. And then let's deal with this issue here. So for whatever reason, there's this input field here, and I don't think it looks very nice. So I decided to write some quick code to remove it. So if we go to the app.css file, just add this in here, and you can see that it's now gone. So that's basically how we create this part of the application. Obviously, we also want to have a thumbnail component as well, and we want to have a couple of other things. But that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next video. Alright, so in this video, we're going to create a preview thumbnail functionality using a job called generate thumbnail. And in here, we want to essentially go ahead and pass through a video, and make sure that you in here are passing through the video, you're running Horizon, and that you're using npm run dev. So if you have all that sorted, you should be good to go. Alright, so FFmpeg, and we're gonna go to the Proton Media Laravel FFmpeg support, where we say open, well, no, sorry, say from disk public, and let's just say open. Just this video original file path, and we want to get frame from second 0, or wherever you want to. You could say frame from second 1, 2, 3. That's up to you. We want to go ahead and export it, and then we just want to say to disk public. And outside of that, you want to say after saving, we want to create a closure where we have the exporter and then the media from Proton Media here, media. And in this closure, all we want to do is we just want to say this video update, and we want to say thumbnail path is equal to media get path. And then lastly, we just want to save the image. And let's make sure we have this like this here. So that should be all we need. I mean, obviously you could maybe create a different format or something like that. I'm not gonna go over this in this video. But let's go ahead and say encode or generate thumbnail, dispatch this video. Perfect. Then inside our video model where we have this form, let's go ahead and create a new wire element here. Let's say div, and in here we just want to have two different options. So we want to have one where we are saying if video thumbnail path, else if, or well, actually we're just going to end it here. Then in here, you just want to have a div with a scatterton, with a width full, and h52 for the height. And then we want to just have in here, otherwise, if we have, this just an else condition. So if it is set, we just want to show an X file, wire model, and let's go ahead to the upload video form. Make sure we copy the correct bit here. Form.thumbnail path, and let's just close this. And in here, you just want to have image, and what we want to say in here is we want to get it from the video thumbnail path, and let's say a class of widthful, rounded large, and outside of that, I think the only other thing we want to implement is the crop after change. And to do that, let's go back in and take a look at MariUI. So in here we have the upload file, and you can see that we can basically do this functionality, for example, where we can accept image, JPG, and PNG. So let's go ahead and make sure we do that. Secondly, we can properly set in cropper functionality using our app.later.php file, where we'll pass this through just up here. And lastly, all we need to do then is literally just go ahead and say crop after change. And that would then allow us to crop the image. So again, let's restart Horizon, because that sometimes it will catch the current queue. So just to make sure there's no issues, let's go back into our code. Let's try to upload a video here. So this seems to be a relatively small video, so undefined variable video. Okay, yeah, so the reason why we're getting that is because we haven't passed through the video variable. So we want to just go ahead in here and say inside upload video, we want to have public video as video. And let's just go ahead and make sure we set this video here, because we forgot to add this one last time, so that would have potentially caused some issues. Sorry about that. But if we go ahead and restart this, let's see what's going on. And you'll notice this won't actually change anything. This won't change. And the reason for that is because even if the queue is successful with generating the thumbnail, we don't know when to listen for the changes. So that's why Livewire 3 has a really neat functionality where you can just say wire poll. So if we go ahead and restart the process, you'll now be able to see that if we go in and try to upload this video, it's going to take a minute here, but let's go ahead and upload it. And while this is uploading, let's just go ahead and see what's going to happen here. So you can see that we have generated the thumbnail now, but this is still not listening for changes. So let's go ahead and make sure we have this properly set here. I'm gonna just go back into our upload video functionality here. Just gonna see if this potentially would do the change. So let's go ahead, make sure there's no errors, keep the one open down here. And let's wait for it to upload. And still seems like we're having some issue somewhere. So let's go ahead and see where that may be. So Where are we saving the image as a start? Are we saving it inside the public folder, which is great. So if we go back in here now, these thumbnails are being generated, so we know that. If we head into our database, are we setting the thumbnail is the other question. And we're not. And that could potentially be because if we go back into our video PHP, we need to pass in the thumbnail path. So I'm going to go ahead and restart the process. So let's say to flush the all the jobs running, let's just say flush all, and then just rerun Horizon. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete all of this now because there's quite a lot in here. And the same in here, I'm going to go delete all these videos just so we have clear path. Perfect. And yeah, so at the moment, if we just go ahead and make sure we delete this videos one here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this one as well. Just delete all the folders just to essentially see if we can get it to work. So if we now go ahead and upload the video, you'll see is making this nice loading screen here, and there we go. So if I click here, and I'm going to go ahead and select this one, and cannot handle file upload with Livewire. That's because we need to use with file uploads. So if we go ahead and restart this process, this requires a lot of restarting when you're doing this video upload process. It's quite a lot to walk through. So we're restarting the process. We will select a random image, and there you go. You can now crop it or just leave it as it is. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching this video, and Alright, so let's go into our upload video function here, or update video specifically. In here we want to, using this wire submit update video, we want to go ahead essentially and create a button on the bottom as well. And I want to show this button if video thumbnail path is set. So we want to wait till that's happened, just because we want to make sure that it actually has a thumbnail upon publishing the video, either through one that the user selects or through here. So that's perfect. So what we want to do in here is actually put in a X slot actions, and we want to have an X button in here called submit, where we're just going to say upload video. And in this one, we can also specify a few other things, such as wire click. We're going to update the video on clicking it. We're going to have a label in here. Instead of having it with a closing statement, we're going to have a label in here called publish. We're going to have a class btn primary, and let's say spinner save. So it will spin upon saving. And that only works because we're inside this xform component. So inside the update video, let's go ahead and change that a bit around. So we want to go ahead and validate as a starter. So sorry, this form validate. And then in here we want to essentially say thumbnail is going to be equal to this form thumbnail path store as, and we're going to store it inside thumbnails with an str UUID, and I'm going to actually put this on a new line just so it's a bit more readable. And let's say we're going to start this by a dot, and then we're going to go by this form thumbnail path get client original extension. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy it here just to save time. Perfect. And we want to have this set as public. So we have thumbnails, storing this as a UID. We want to make sure that we have the dot here as well. And outside of that, we just want to go ahead and say this video update. And what we can go ahead and say is title, this form title, thumbnail path as thumbnail, this form description, and we just want to add in the tags. And let's go ahead and look inside Table Plus. Let's go to YouTube clone. And let's take a look in here. What have we specified here? We have specified live ad. So I'm going to go ahead and add in one more field into our form, which is going to be the ability to specify when the video is going to be scheduled. So I'm going to add in X date time schedule for, call this live ad. I'm going to go inside the upload video into the upload video form, and in here, let's go ahead and say live ad. And let's just say in here, I think we can have it as just required for now. So I'm just going to leave it in there as required. And then lastly, what we can do is inside here when we're saving it is say live ad. And let's just say this form live ad. And other than that, what we want to make sure is that we then go ahead and close the model. So we set that to false. And then we will say this toast, and let's just make sure we actually import it. So use toast, and this comes directly with the Mary UI, so you can just easily implement it. And we're just gonna say in here a few different things. So I'm gonna open up this like this. We're gonna have this as description. And then we'll just say your video has been successfully uploaded. And then what we just wanted to make sure is that we say this redirect to route home, because the video may not necessarily be available for processing. So we'll just leave it like this. You could go into more detail and maybe make it significantly more customized within Toast, what it says and that. But I'm going to leave it as it is for now, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a go. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the browser. In here, let's make sure we have any random given video. And I'm just going to put title, test. I'm going to schedule this for now. The scheduling function we'll work on later. I'm going to find in a random thumbnail. And I'm going to click publish. And it's not working. So let's take a look at what's going on here. From the thumbnail cannot be entangled. So if we go back into our code here, let's look at this. We need to specify this as thumbnail path. So let's go ahead and make this upload video function and see if it works now. So I'm going to put in test, and I'm just going to set this to today. I'm going to go ahead and change the thumbnail. Let's say I'm going to just upload this one here. And let's go ahead and take a look in our database. So it didn't seem to store the live ad, and I'm suspecting that this could be to do with the fact that we haven't specified it in here. So let's go ahead and make sure we have live ad and tag specified. I'm gonna go ahead and give it one more go. And then later on we will start showing the videos and working on the video card. Undefined column tags of relation videos. So let's go ahead and take a look. Have we actually added in the tags field? We may actually have forgotten that. So let's go ahead and create videos table. I'm gonna go ahead and delete these two folders here. I'm gonna make sure we delete everything in here first. So I'm gonna just delete these two folders. I'm gonna go into migrations and I'm gonna delete these two here. That means we can then migrate it afterwards. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna make sure that we go into our create video, not video format, so create video tables. And in here we just want to have a table, and I think we want to have the tags as just a string. That's going to work fine as nullable. So let's just migrate this. Set this as today. I'm going to go ahead and change the thumbnail quickly. And let's click publish. So we have this stored with a tag. We have live at date. And we also have the ability to check if the video is processed, which we're going to work on later, because we want to make sure that if a video is not processed, we don't want to display it. And by that, it means, you won't be able to play the video. But that's all for this video. So thank you very much for watching the video. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Alright, let's start preparing for having video card available. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a new Livewire. And I'm gonna call this video card. So let's head into our video card. And now I'm just gonna lay out some basic outlining here. So we wanna just have a div here. And in here we wanna have a column span of 4. And then we wanna use the X card, which is a part of the Mary UI. And we wanna use X slot figure. And in here, we want to put in the video player essentially and automatically play it. So we do not need any specific video player here, so there's no reason to do that. So we'll just have video player in here. I'm gonna also make sure we have the format, but quite crucially, before we start adding this in, we need to make sure we iterate through our video formats, which we will add in a minute where we will add the relationship. So we'll just call this format file path and format quality. And outside of that, I'm gonna leave this for now as it is. I'm not gonna do anything more here. I'm gonna go into the video card here, and I'm gonna make a public video. And then what we want to do is we also want to make sure inside our home.blade.php that we have these cards here. So we want to also make sure this is column, using a column here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy some code as well here, just to make sure that it looks quite nice. So inside our home controller, we want to create a function here where we're going to get all the videos. So let's make sure we can do that properly. And for this one, we will just say videos, then get all the videos for now. We will find out a better way to do this with some infinitive scroll later on potentially. And just pass in the videos here. So with that sorted, we're now able to access it here, be able to lazy load this, we're able to iterate it through here, and let's take a look what we have. Make sure you run npm run dev as well. So right now we have a malform for each statement. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So we have for each video formats as format, of course. And we're having this card here. I'm also going to go ahead and do some other styling here. We're going to work on the video autoplaying function as well. So let's make a div with a space y of 2. And then make a flex with a justify between. We want to have item center. Then we want to have one here where we say div flex grow 1. And we want to have a width of 150 pixels. And then here we just want to have an anchor tag with a wire navigate specified. For now we will leave the anchor tag empty because we don't have any video pages. And then here we just want to have an image with the user profile picture. There we go. So far so good. And then outside of here we want to have an anchor tag. This will lead to the YouTube channel, by the way. So in this anchor tag, again, we don't have ability to view videos yet. We will make sure that it also has wire navigate. And let's just go ahead and make sure that we have a couple of classes in here where we say flex column space y 1.5. We want to make sure that we have a h2 here with a text to Excel, and we want to wrap it. Then we just want to have the video title. And you can see we now have the video title as this test. We then also want to make sure that we have a div in here where we just have a video username. We want to have this one here to separate it. And the views functionality we will add in a little bit later, so I will just leave this for now as 2K. And outside of that, I'm just going to go ahead into the database. I'm going to edit this title to be a bit longer. This is my first YouTube video. And there we go. So we now have this neatly styled one here, and then we want to make sure inside our video component that we have the video with an xref for player. In the top here, we want to make sure xdata playing set to false. Also, where we have this xref for player, we want to make sure inside the video one here that we have a few other things specified. We want to have mouse enter, and in this case we just want to say playing, equals to true. Then we want to say refs dot player equals play. Then we want to have another one here saying mouse leave playing equals false, refs dot player equals false, refs dot player dot current time set to 0. You want to make sure that this have an ID of player. We want to make sure that this has the poster here, specified as video thumbnail path. And lastly, I'm just going to make sure we are checking here in case this is empty that we're not breaking the application. So just make sure you have these. So we have an empty string instead. There we go. So other than that, I also want to make sure that inside here we have a couple of other things. We need to make sure that the URL is correct. So let's just check here. So we have this public exports, and inside a database, video format is stored here as 360p. So let's copy the link for this and see what's going on here. So we aren't able to play the video, but if we just make sure we have the environmental settings set correctly, make sure you have PHP artisan storage link set on. That's already done, good. And then in here, let's just make sure we also have the file. So we have this file here. It says ending in 360.mp4. So we have this file. Can we access it if we just copy the name? Of course we can't, because this won't work, because we are specifying exports was already in here. So I think all we need to do is just remove the export there. And there we go. And now you can see it's playing here, which is perfect. The only other thing we want to make sure is that we mute this and we want to put this on a loop. And that is how we get this interesting effect here where it actually starts playing the video. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Okay, let's get started with installing Plyr as a video player. So to do that, we're just gonna be using this CDN. So I'm gonna go ahead and find the installation process. And we can find everything we need here. So we need the Plyr.css and we need the CDN for the JavaScript. So let's head into app.blade.php file. In here, I want to just go ahead and pass in the CDN. And I want to pass in the style sheet. So that's basically everything you need to install it. So when it comes to actually creating a component for it, we're going to have a component where we're going to play the video. So let's go ahead and look at that now. So we're going to head in and create a component called player. And And inside Plyr, let's just make sure that we have a few different things. So we want to go into the play component. In here, you just want to pass in a div with a video, and all we want to pass in here is the ID of Plyr. We want to iterate through video formats, where we have the file path and the format quality. We want to use the Livewire script tag to push up the script, so it actually doesn't break the application. And then we just want to have a script in here. We want to have a const player equal to new player with a preview thumbnail enabled and a source to the VTT file, which we'll be working on very soon. Outside of that, all you just want to have is place inline controls, data poster is going to be equal to video thumbnail path. And that's actually everything for this video, so thank you very much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next one. Start working on the video page, so I'm gonna go ahead and create a Livewire component called video page. And inside video page component, we want to take in a video. The same goes for the player component. So let's just make sure we're taking in a video here. There we go. So with that sorted, let's head into our video page.php. And in here we want to have a fair few things. So this just outlined the page in this tutorial. So I'm going to start out with having a max width of 7XL with an MX Auto and a margin top of 5. I want to have div in here as well. And I want to have a div with the card class from MariUI. I want to have a max width here with a BG base of 100 shadow XL. And then I want to have a Livewire layer with the video inside it. And I want to have a card body. And inside the card body, we want to have a card title with flex justify between. And in here, we then want to have video title. And we want to put this inside a H1 tag. And then we want to have a div with a wire pole of 1 minute. In here we want to have a class with a space x of 5. We want to have some like buttons. We will leave those for now. Alright, so we also want to have in here a flex with a flex colon, space y of 2. We want to have a div in here and we want to have a small text. In here we then want to have the ability to say text small, flex. And we want to have an X icon with the name FFMpeg, that's the font awesome here. We just want to have a label here with the view number, let's say 1K for now. And we just want to have a span here where we have a class of border L2 border grade 300 along with an ML2 and MR2. And then we want to have a time here with a date time. Set as video created app. and a title where we say video created at. And then we want to pass through the readable version for humans here. So this will just allow us to hover over it and see the specific time using HTML. And lastly, just below this div tag here, we just want a paragraph with video description. So what we can do now is we can go into web.php. We can go ahead and say videos and specify it under UID. Which we haven't actually added to the video model, so let's again go ahead and delete these. Just gonna make sure we delete the format tables first and then the video table. And let's go into create videos table. And we're just gonna have a UUID as a unique one. So let's migrate this. And it doesn't seem to have broken anything. Outside of that, we want to make sure in here do we have the videos. So that's video UUID. And we want to use the video page Livewire component. I'm gonna go ahead and import this now. And inside video page, we will then be able to see all of this here. It may break, so outside that, before we upload a new video, let's make sure that we have a UUID generated. So if we go into the video model, you'll be able to check when we boot the method. So all we really need to do is just this bit here. So when we boot the method, we check upon creating, we assign a random UUID. And that's basically it for this. So if we go ahead now, try to upload a video, let's see what happens. Okay, let's say testing here. We'll make sure that we have Horizon open. My first video is the title. Pass in some random data here. Let's go ahead and change the thumbnail. And let's go ahead and hook this up. So if we go into our video card component and our web PHP component, in here we just want to name this video.show. Inside video card, what we need to do in here is just say route and pass in the video. And let's see what's going on here. Okay, yeah, so the issue with this is we need to have a layout component as well for Livewire. So just create this layout component, copy this, go into app.play.php inside resources, views, components, layouts. And there we go. So I'm just going to go ahead and mute this, and you can see that we now have this video here. So we just have an issue here with the encoding of the video not being done yet. So let's wait for that. Let's go ahead and actually check what qualities we've got so far. And let's make sure inside that the video player that we are loading it correctly. There we go. And because we're specifying the size here, it should be picked up on when there's more than one size to display multiple qualities. So we will start looking at that in the next video, making sure that works, and then generating the VTT file. But as you can see, this player works neatly. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next one. Alright, so with everything sorted so far on the video page, all I want to make sure of now is that we have the ability to like a video. So to do that, let's go ahead and make a model called like. And I'm then going to go ahead into this model. And then here we just want to look at a few small things. We also want to make sure we set up a migration. So I'm going to go ahead into the create likes migration. And the way by the way, if you didn't know, the way I reach this search thing here in PHP Storm is by using Shift 2 times on Mac. So with that sorted, let's go into this table, and we want to use the morphs relationship type here. And I'm going to call this likable. I'm going to say table foreign ID called use ID. And to be extra safe, I'm just going to constrain it to the users table in case anything breaks. Outside of that, I just want to use a quick enum here where I say enum. We're not going to go deeply into how enums work in this course, but we're just going to set up a type, likable or dislike. And outside of that, we only really need to make sure that we have some unique here as well. So you're going to say table unique, use ID, likable ID, likable type, and type. And we're going to say PHP Horizon migrate. And that should now have ended up with a likes table here. And this could be related to more than just videos. It could be related to comments if we implement that later on, which is why we're using this morphs functionality instead. So if we go into our like model, we just want to make sure we have the fillable functionality also set. So I'm going to go to the like.php, and we want to be able to go back to a user potentially later on. Not sure if we would need this, but we want to be on the safe side. And then inside the user table, what we want here is a couple of things. We want, no, so inside the video table, we want a couple of things. So basically what we want to be able to do, because we have a video table, in there we want to be able to check whether we have liked it or not, and whether we've disliked it. So I'm going to go ahead and create a few functions here. First function is going to be a public function called likes, and we're going to return morphs many. And in here we just want to have a class of like what the type is like. And then we want to do the same thing for the dislike. Where the type is dislike. And we also want to make sure that we have just the like model in itself, just so we can access that. And later on we want to be able to update the like status. And that's all for this video. So in the next video we're going to start liking and disliking videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Alright, so let's get started with creating the like functionality. So I'm going to create a function in here called update like status. And let's make sure this is a void because we're not returning anything. So in here I'm just going to say existing rating, and I'm going to say that is equal to this like model. And if we go into our user.php, last time I ended up creating this in the user page, we're actually supposed to do this in the video page. So let's go in here. This is what I've decided to do in this case. So in here we just want to make sure that we have many likes, and in the like model we want to say where user ID equals the authenticated user. And then outside of that I just want to make sure we have that type in here. And then we just want to say if existing rating, then in that case we just want to say if existing rating type equals to type, we want to say existing rating delete. So we're deleting the like if it already exists, because then we are changing it from a like to a dislike, for example. And then otherwise we're saying existing rating update with the new type. And then outside of this condition here, we're also having ability to create an existing rating, just like that. And basically by doing this we are then able to update and delete the likes. But before we get into that, let's make sure we have the like functionality implemented as well. So we kind of need two things here. So just below the title of the video, so in case here, I'm gonna create a div with a wire poll of 1 minute where class is base y5. And in here I want to put in scenarios for when you're authenticated, and when you are a guest. And then where we're authenticated, we want to be able to like the video and also count the likes and all that, and have some animations. So I'm going to go ahead and use the X icon function, and let's have a name here, what icon we want to use, and that's going to be fas.thumbs up. And I have a class here of transition or cursor pointer, and I'm going to have a hover with a scale of 125, hover text blue 500. And for the text, we want to have a label here as well. And we're going to use the new number function in Laravel. We're going to abbreviate the video's likes count. We're now going to go ahead and do similar thing for the thumbs down. And we just want to make sure here that we have this turning into red. And let's just go back here and check. So inside the video model, we have forgotten to copy over the likes functionality. So let's make sure we have that in so we don't break it. And as you can see, there's no likes or dislikes here. I also think we should put this as space X actually, not space Y. There we go. So as you can see, we now have this nice neat animation here. You could choose to hide numbers for dislikes as YouTube does right now. That's perfectly up to you, but for testing purposes, I'm keeping this on just to see if it works or not. And only other thing we need to now do is inside the video page component, we need to create a like and a dislike function. So let's quickly go ahead and do that. So I've created this functionality already here, so let's go ahead and remove this ID here. We shouldn't need that. Perfect. And let's create this as a void function here because we want to make sure this is type safe. And outside of that, I'm also gonna just go ahead and make sure inside our video page here that we have the ones for the unauthenticated users, which we're gonna keep in here. And outside of that, that should be really everything we need. So let's go ahead and see what happens now if I refresh. Click like. Nothing is happening. So that's because we need to hook it up to the wire component, obviously. So let's just sort that out here. Wire click like, and then a wire click dislike. And we need to say this is a dislikes count. There we go. And if I then go click here, you can see it then changes. And that's it for this video. So this is how we are creating this nice little neat like and dislike animation. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Alright, so let's do two things in this video. So as a starter, I want to get rid of this like dislike text because we don't actually need that anymore, and I'm going to go ahead and delete the element there. So that's perfect. So with that sorted, let's make sure that we also have this in here so it does look a bit nicer. And let's make sure we add in the views. So how are we going to do that? We're going to be using Eloquent Viewable, which is a very neat software here we can use. It allows us to count views over different period, create unique views or non-unique views. So all we really need to do is just go ahead and install this. So if you go into your terminal, just make sure you run this. And while it's running, make sure you publish the migrations, and then you also want to go ahead and migrate things. So let's go ahead and do that. As you can see now, we are essentially able to see. Alright, so in here, you can now see that we have got this views table. It uses the morphs relationship, so we can record views on anything we want. We could even record channel views if you wanted to. It then creates a unique visitor, and you also have the ability to see when it was viewed. So all we really want to go ahead and do now is we want to go ahead and record this view. So since we're using this Livewire component to essentially render out the view, we just want to make sure that we actually, first and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and tidy this up a little bit. I'm going to put the public view up here, and then upon mounting it, we want to count the view. So all we need to do really is to mount it, then view, and we're going to view this video, record it, and if we can go ahead and take a look in our application, we'll then be able to see that we now have an error. So why is that? And I think the reason for that is because we need to actually go in and specify the view in here. In the model, we need to say interact with views, and on top of that, we also need to make sure that we have one other thing in here, which is essentially we need to implement viewable. So all we need to do in here is we need to say implement viewable and interact with views. And if we then go ahead to the page now, refresh it, and then head into our database, you'll see we have a visitor. So what I can go ahead now and do is I can go inside our video page component here, and where we're showing the views, essentially with this icon here, I'm going to go ahead and pass through number, and I'm going to, let's just put it through actually, number in large port, and then say abbreviate, and we actually don't need this thing because it's already going to be imported, which is perfect. So inside our video page component, what we just want to do is we want to count each unique view, which we can do using the views function again. So all we need to do is just pass through this code here. So as you can see, we're now able to go ahead, display the view. I click refresh, it doesn't increment the view. But if I went ahead and, let's say, for example, ran this query I've created here where we generate a certain amount of views, for example, 1,000 views. So you're welcome to copy this in. I'm going to put this in the GitHub repository so you can easily access it. I'm going to go ahead and copy the ID here. And then all we want to do is just make sure we have this ID set, run it. You go ahead and refresh, and you've got 1004 rows. It will record when you refresh the page, but you can determine if you want to show the unique views or the non-unique views. So you could even mess around with that if you wanted to. So if I go ahead now and I click refresh, you can see we have 1000 views, which is quite decent. So we're now actually able to work with all of that. And as you can see, the like and the dislike button doesn't work if you just click on it here. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Alright, so let's go ahead and create a trending controller. With Invocable. What we can actually do inside this trending controller, which is pretty neat, unless you want to have customization to it, you shouldn't actually need anything in here. You should need a new view. You can just use the home view. You're just passing different videos into it. So all we want to do in here is really just say videos. Then we want to say video, ordered by unique views. Yeah. That will allow us to have this trending functionality. Also gone ahead in here and added the link here for the trending, which is exactly the same as the other one, except for it uses the trending root. And outside of that, what we just need to do inside web.php is to make sure we use the trending controller. for the class. I've created 2 videos here as well, so yeah, this one was sorted by the most views. This one has currently got a little bit more views, so that's what it was sorted by. But otherwise, on the home controller right now, we're sorting by the latest, which I've just added in here, so you can get the latest video. And outside that, there's only one more thing I really want to sort out before we wrap up the video, is to make sure we can get the unique views count correctly on the video card. So it now shows correctly here. And that's basically it for this video. Thank you very much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Alright, so we're just going to prepare for some of the backend for having multiple channels. So let's go ahead and open the terminal. In here, I'm just going to create a controller in here called channel controller. Show channel controller to be specific. You can also just use this as Livewire component, so let's go ahead and do that instead. Let's call this channel. And what we want to go ahead and do then is inside web.php is that we want to pass through channel, and we want to pass through the username. Basically, what we should be able to do is we should just be able to pass through a user, and in here we can just say username. We can say channel. Not going to work on designing the channel in here, but we're just going to, for now, make sure that we can at least go ahead and view it. We're going to say channel show. Inside this class here, we want to take in a public instance of a user, which is going to be required. And then we want to go ahead later on and work on some more features to specify what is required when you go on a channel. So let's go into channel.play.php. And all I really want to go ahead and do right now is just create the very basic outline in here. So first div can be empty and there doesn't need to be anything in it. And the second one needs to be a flex. And we need a flex with a justify between. We're going to be working on the contents of the channel in the next episode, but for now, just to make sure we have everything we need here. And then we need something with an empty of 5. And then here we just need some X tabs, like that. It's going to be users tab. And we will just, for now, just create a user tabs in here. Just like that. And that's going to be home instead of user tab. But now we'll just put it like that. And in here, where we have the justify between, we're going to have everything from the logo to the subscriber count and so on. And in here, we're going to have the banner. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching it, and I'll see you. Alright, let's get the profile photo in of the channel that we have. So actually, to get started with, let's go into our channel.php file. And in here, I'm going to call this, instead of calling it user to avoid confusion, I'm going to call this channel. So we're going to be using the current authenticated user in here to check if they have permission to change things and so on. So we want to make sure that we have this thing sorted there. So before we get onto anything else, let's start out by creating a flex element in here. We want to have an image channel profile photo UL, and alt text, let's just say channel names profile. picture. And then we want to have a class of rounded full instead of 50, and an empty 15 minus 15 pixels. We're going to have a shadow small, and a border slate 300. And then a width of 24. I'm going to put this onto a new line here for these components here, so it looks a bit nicer. And then here we want to have something with a left space here of 2. And we want to have a H1 with a class font bold and text 2XL, the channel name, which will be the name of the user here. Then we want to have a paragraph in here, and we want to have the span in here actually before we put this username, and it's going to contain the username, and then we're going to have another span in here, which is going to contain a border L to with a H4, the border grade 300, then margin left of 2 and a margin right of 2. Then we're going to have below that the subscriber count, which is not possible to get yet, so we're going to just leave that for now as 1K. And we're going to have the total view count, so we're going to again just put in 1K here. And outside of that, what we want is a few other things, such as the subscribe button on the side of this, but for now we will just leave that. So let's take a look in here. So if I, for example, want to just go to the channel, in here you can see we have the channel and then the username. We just go to just making sure it's the correct username. So going in here to the users, and the username is Matilde, so that's why it's an issue. And for the full profile photo URL, let's make sure inside the user, here we have the profile photo URL. We will set that as a question mark there. And the same thing goes for the name, just to have some null safe operators. So right now we're having an issue with the user not being loaded, so let's try to fix that. So we set the username in here by having this as channel. So basically what we want to make sure of in here is that it gets user username. So let's just check what the issue is. We want to have it as slash channels as well. And we want to have user slash username. I think we should put this through to a controller potentially. That may make it easier as well. So let's create a show channel controller. Make it invocable. And pass it in here. Show channel controller. Just gonna go ahead and import that. In here we just want to return a view called channel. Don't really need to have that inside a folder because it's all going to be in one or maybe two Livewire components. So if we just go ahead and close these off here, channel.play.php, and in here we just want to make sure we pass through user or channel as the currently retrieved user, which we can get from here, user channel. Then inside here, what we just want to do is say Livewire in this channel with a channel pass through as well. And we're getting a 404 not found, so we also want to have this inside an X app layout. We want to make sure we're going to the channels, not the channel. And moment we're just getting no details here, so let's just make sure we have username copied in correctly here. It's probably correct pass through. Let's just dive on the user to see what's going on here. Okay, what if we actually rename this a user? Yeah, it's because the variable is called user, so we need to call this variable user. So let's just call this user. Then in here, we just want to pass through the user. Oh, channel. We can call a channel in here actually. There we go. So that's the start of it. So the other thing we want to make sure of in here is that we have the tabs as well. So let's go into our channel page again. And in here, we're going to be briefly adding the videos like we did on the home controller. So I'm just going to copy that actually. So if we go back into our channel PHP, in here we can then create an X tab with the name called videos and label called videos. And all we just want to do is just pass through pretty much like the same on the other page, on the home page. We're just going to pass through this here. And then we get an undefined variable of videos. And that's to be expected because we haven't defined that yet. So the way we can get the video instead in here is actually just say channel videos. And that's obviously going to be up here. There you go. So now we have the videos function in here. We have the brief page here, and then later on we're going to be working on the subscribers and also the ability to have the banner showing up here, where we're going to be able to upload a banner and set that automatically on the channel page. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching it. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Alright, so let's create a function to get the total views of an individual channel spread across the videos. So we want to do this in the user model. In here we want to create a function called total views. And in here we want to create a variable called total views, which is going to be basically calculating this video's sum. In this case, we want to sum with a closure here. And we just want to return the total views as well. So in this closure, what you want to do is you want to return views. Then we want to get the video, which we're going to pass through in the closure here. And we want to count it. This will then end up giving us the total views of an individual user's channel. So if we head into the channel component here. Inside this channel component, I'm going to put through the ability to abbreviate the total channel views. How we do that is basically just call this function here where we get the total views. Basically, by doing that, heading into a channel, you can then see we have 3,000 views, and you can see we have 1,000 views here and 1,000 views here. So that doesn't fully add up. So let's see where this is going wrong. Inside the user function here, we can do this as an inline variable as well. We sum the video count, we return the total amount of views. So if I just go ahead and DIDOM on this now, instead, I'm just going to go ahead and get the variable back. It's 3009. Alright, let's take a look at the YouTube clone here inside the videos. We have these two videos here. And we have 3009 count here. So it must be because it's rounding up to about 1.5k, so we aren't specifying that exactly. So it is actually correct. So it's just because this is the individual videos has about 1,500 views each. So let's just go ahead and make this an inline variable again. And we want to have this as a void. No, sorry, as a integer. And there we go. So we now have to count the total amount of views, and to make it distinguishable from the subscriber count, we just want to say subscribers. Then in here we can say str, and then we can put in it as plural views. We can put through the total views here. So if there was only one view, it would be saying view, and if there was more than one view, it would say views, like that, which is perfect. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Alright, so before we start working on the subscription form, let's just go ahead and install React Toastify so we can have multiple notifications. So I'm going to go ahead and just npm install it. And then we just need to have a toast container as well, pass it into our layout. So I'm going to go into our layouts folder, going to go into the authenticated layout, and down here I'm just going to have a toast container. So with that sorted, let's head into our components folder and create a subscription form component. It's going to be used outside of the model, which we're going to be using in the page where you can upgrade your subscription as well, along with using it in the pay page. It's going to be a reusable component we're using in multiple places. So for this area, we need to have a couple of imports here. We need to first and foremost import React. Then we want to have use effect and use data imported. We also want to import add element from Stripe, and as well as that we want to have use Stripe and use elements imported, and then we just want to import host from React Hostify, and we want to import use form from inertia.js React. And then we want to have const subscription form, and then here we want to pass through subscription and plans. And we want to have const stripe element that's going to be set to equal to use stripe. We're going to have a const of elements equal to use elements. And we're going to have in here a billing cycle and a set billing cycle. Then we're going to have a const data set data post equals to use form. And then here we want to have the plan, which is going to be set to subscription. Dot plan subscription dot plan, or basic in this case, because that's what we're going to call the default plan. And we want to set the billing cycle to billing cycle. And we want to handle plan change as well, which we're going to equal to handle plan change, and we're going to have a new plan pass through. Then here we're going to have a set data with a plan equals to new plan. And then we're also going to have a function here which is going to handle the billing plans, and we're going to have one to handle the submit and one to filter the plans. So we want to create the handle billing cycle change. And then here we just want to have a constant new billing cycle. We want to set the data billing cycle to new billing cycle. And we want to have const default plan, find the plan, check if it's annual, and then get the title, and then set the plan in here. And for handle submit, we will work on that later on because we're not submitting anything yet. So in here, we're just going to have the event. And with this event, we're going to prevent it by default. And I'm going to leave the rest of that form for now because we don't want to work on this video because that's going to be quite a long video then. So this is a two-part video where we're going to outline the first things to just have the form displaying, and then later on we're going to be charging the user. And we're going to have the const filter plans equal to plans.filter, and it's going to be looking for is annual equal to billing cycle equals to annual. And then we just want to return some code here. In here we want to have form with a class name in here where we're going to have a space y3. And we want to have a div in here with flex mt2 space x3 items center. And then we want to have an input in here, ID of checkbox, and we also want to pass through some other things in here, which is going to be classes, which I'm just going to save time, I'm just going to copy them in. Otherwise, I think this video could be too long. To be setting a relative before inline block, a ring slate 300 before width 6 and before height 6. And we're setting all the rest of the classes here as well. There's quite a lot of classes here, by the way, so feel free to get that from the GitHub repository. And then we want to have a label down here. That's going to be for actually don't set the for in here. So what we just do is we set billing cycle text here. And class name is going to be text small, text gray, 500, ms3, dark, text gray, 400. Then we're going to have the filter plans down here. Again, to save time, to not make the video too long, I'm going to copy down this here, which is just where we have the plans filtered here. So we're getting the value, the price here, we're getting the title. We're then basically creating a ability to change between the plans. And then just below the unordered list, we just want to have the card element with the class name of border 2 and padding of 2 and shadow small. And then we just want to have a submit button, which we can leave for the next video. And these are the classes for the submit button here. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. So in this video, we're going to be building up the subscriber functionality. So to get started with, we're going to create a model here, or at least a bit of a function. So if we head in here, we can essentially create a subscriber migration. Actually, we're not going to create a model. So let's create channel subscribers table, and let's send it into channel subscriber table. In here, we just need a few foreign IDs. So we need a foreign ID in here, which is going to be the channel ID, which is essentially the users, cascaded on delete. And then the same thing for the subscriber ID, which again is going to be related to the users. And that's basically it. That's the way we count the subscribers. So basically, the channel ID is the person the user has subscribed to, and the subscriber ID is the user who subscribed. So I'm migrating this, and then if we head into the user model, we can create a few functions here. So in here, we want to create a function called subscriptions. And a user can have many subscriptions. So we want to return this. It belongs to many, sorry. User class channel subscriber, subscriber ID, and then channel ID. And then we want to have a function in here which is going to check if how many subscribers the user has, and we're going to have one here that's going to basically check is subscribed to user. So the subscribers function, you can have, again, it belongs to many. In here we want to return this belongs to many user class channel subscriber, and then we want to have the channel ID and then the subscriber ID in this case. Make sure we close the function. And to check if someone is subscribed, all we want to check is return, and this is going to be a boolean, so let's go ahead and make sure that's spooning here. Return the subscriptions and where channel ID equals to, and we make sure we pass in a user here. And we want to pass through the user ID. And basically that will allow us to check if you're subscribed, how many subscribers you have, and the subscriptions the user has. So now if we go ahead and into our application here, I want to go in essentially to youtube.test and create a new user. Make sure you run npm run dev, otherwise it may look a little bit weird if you haven't run the build for a while. So I'm gonna go ahead and refresh the page here. There we go. I'm gonna click register. I'm just gonna create a new account here. I'm gonna name him Tom. Tom@gmail.com. Password. And there we go. Okay, so let's head into the database first. And in the next video, you can look at how to create the subscriptions through a function in Livewire 3. So for now, we just want to have a ability to check how many subscribers a user has. So if we go into the YouTube clone here, and here you can see we've got the channel subscribers. So I just want to have ID 1 and 2 here. And we need to check the users table here. So it's 2 and 3. So that means that channel 2, which is the original user, and Tom has subscribed to this. So if we head back in, you can then go into channels. There we go. And then let's go ahead and pass through how many subscribers someone has. And this is very similar again to how we did it with the ability to count the views, because what we're really doing is we're abbreviating the total count of subscribers, and then we're getting it either as a plural or as a singular word subscriber or subscribers. So I'm gonna pass through the code here for that. So we abbreviate it and then we make a plural for the word subscriber. And right now we have 1 subscriber. But if we created more users, obviously this would look differently. So that's basically how we're able to just detect how many subscribers someone has. We're able to watch the videos the user has now uploaded. And if you go ahead and copy this and go into Tom's channel, you'll see that he has no videos uploaded, he has no subscribers and 0 views. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome. So in this video we're going to be doing 2 things. As a starter, I want to make sure this customize function in here is inside an authentication check. So I'm going to go ahead and say end off. Just going to reformat it here. Then secondly, I've already added an image here called banner placeholder. I'll add that to the GitHub repository after this video, so don't worry about that bit. I'm going to close down these diffs here, and I'm going to go into here. And in here we want to have a few different things. We want to have an X form using the Mary UI form, which is going to just have a Y submit the prevent, or actually just Y submit, actually, sorry, to updated banner. And then we need to have an X file with a Y model banner. We need to have an image in here, which is going to have the source with the channel. And in this case, you want to say channel banner image or banner placeholder .png. And then we want to basically make sure this only can be done by A, if you are authenticated, and B, if your channel ID is the same as the currently authenticated user's ID. And then I want to go ahead and end the if, actually do an else instead. Because if we're not authenticated or if we are not that user, I just want to go ahead and add in the same image here. And let's take a look at this now. So in here we have the big banner image here. I am going to go ahead and delete that because I've just been playing around with it, making sure that it works. And if I now remove this, we don't get actually an image in here. So let's take a look. Why is that? That's because we're not outputting the text there. And that's because I have put in profile photo image, obviously. So banner image slash placeholder image. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this here. I'm going to inspect the image. Currently it doesn't seem like it's working, so let's just try to output anything in here. And it is outputting, so that's great. So we have this banner image variable here. What we need to make sure of in here is say banner image, same as the placeholder image. Make sure we have the slash in front. And I think it's because we need to actually set this value as null. That's just to do with my database tool. So at the moment it will set as empty, not null, which will eventually not cause this to show. So I'm not logged in right now, so I'm going to go ahead and log in. I'm going to go back into my own channel. Going to click upload image, and I'm just going to select the image here. It will scale out a bit weirdly because this is not normal, but as you can see, the upload function works fine. So what we want to go ahead now do is make sure that it uploads. So to do that, inside channel PHP, I'm going to create this function where we look for when the image has been updated. So make sure you import the attributes on, and then we want to create in here as well use with file uploads, and want to have a banner set here, which is the one we're going to be calling in the wire model relationship in here. And let's go ahead and refresh now. I'm going to go ahead and upload any random given image. Take a look in the database. You can see the image has been installed correctly, which is perfect. If I go ahead and refresh, you can see we have this image here. This obviously doesn't look very nice right now because this is not the right size. You need to make sure that you upload the correct size. But outside of that, the only other thing you need to make sure is that you have the banner image as fillable. And that's actually all for this video. So thank you very much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next one. Alright, so in this video we're going to be installing Laravel Scout. So over the next couple of videos we're going to be working on the search functionality and the ability to search through videos. So to get started with, I'm going to head into my project here, and I'm going to open up a new terminal. I'm going to clear out some of the old ones that I'm not using right now. And after you've installed it, we need to publish this service provider for the Scout application. And what this basically allows us to do is use a third-party driver. For example, we could use Golia or In this case, we're going to be using Meilisearch, but you could use a goalie as well if you wanted to. I'm going to copy this code over. I'm going to require Meilisearch. And outside of that, all we just need is heading into our env file. So inside our env file down here, we just want to have the Meilisearch set up like this. So now that you've got Meilisearch installed as well, you can also read more about it on their website. There will be more documentation here if there's anything else you need to set up. But overall, that should allow us to just run the Meilisearch command and you start a server. You may be using Homestead, and in this case you just need to enable this into homestead.yaml file, or you may be wanting to install this with Homebrew or the likes. So that's also a prerequisite for this video, but I've already installed this. I'm not going to walk you through to install Meilisearch specifically. But by doing that, we're now able to basically run all the searching through Meilisearch. And again, Meilisearch will run on this port. So if you go ahead and open it up in the browser, you'll be able to see that we have this mini dashboard here where we can index different things. So I can go ahead in here, for example, and say the video model. Hello everyone, welcome back to the final episode of the YouTube clone series. I am sorry for being 15 minutes late with it, but I have just published another video where I go through how to install Meilisearch and Laravel Scout. If you're in doubt, you can just head to laravel.com. All you just need to do is follow the instructions on the Scout installation package and head into installer here, publish the provider, and outside of that you just need to install Meilisearch here and put this into your env configuration file. So to get started with, let's head into the video model here, and inside the video model we want to have a few things in here. We want to have use searchable set up, and then we want the ability to essentially create a searchable array where we will pass through the data the user will see. So we want to have public function to searchable array. We're going to pass through an array here, and in here we're going to put in this array here where we are going to say title is going to be equal to this title, and description is going to be equal to the description, and then we're going to set the tags as well. So that's basically what we're doing here. Then in order to import this, we're going to just say phpartisan scout import app models video, and there we go. So if we head back in to the Meilisearch application, let's go in and copy this. You can see we have these two videos imported, which is perfect. So let's go ahead and look at creating the search functionality now. So inside navigation menu, we are going to just start off by, I'm going to make myself a bit more space here. So I'm going to close down the aside here where we have the sidebar. I'm going to close down the hamburger just to make sure that's sorted. And outside of that, we don't need this one showing either. I'm just making it easier to basically work within here. So just below where we have this name here, we're gonna put through a div with the flex item center flex grow 1, and in here we're gonna have relative position. Then we're going to have a form in here. And in here we're going to say route search. That will currently not exist, so that will break the application temporarily. We want to set in a method here, which is going to be get. And we want to have an X input with the ID of query, name query, type is going to be search, and placeholder is going to be search. And outside of that, I just want to have this as with an icon in here, so say X slot append, and inside here we are appending a button with the type of submit. Icon is going to be fas.search, and the class is going to be button primary rounded L none. Let's take a look at what that looks like when we've created the search route first. So in here we're just gonna create this route here called search, and this is gonna use a controller we're gonna call search controller. So I'm just gonna say PHP Artisan make controller called search controller, make it invocable, and for now I'm just gonna comment out this here, and then in here we're gonna pass through the search controller, import it, and let's take a look. There we go. So that already looks better. So inside the search controller, we're gonna have a query, which is gonna be the same as request query query, and we're gonna have the result, which is gonna be video search query get, and then we're just gonna return the view called search with the results as well. And I'm gonna create this view in here now called search. This is where we will have all the results shown for the user. And inside the search bar, search side, what we want to have in here is just the layout, and then we want to have a div in here with a padding of 12 with a max weight of 7 XL and send to the div. And then we want to have text 2 XL with a marking button of 5. We're going to have this as a H1. Use search for query. And I'm going to put this in the strong field here. So if we now go in here and let's say I'm typing in something here, you search for DD, because we're now passing through that result here. So let's iterate through the results we retrieved in here. So I'm going to have a grid here with a gap X of 8 and a gap Y of 4 and a grid columns of 3. And then here I'm going to have for each results as video, and I'm going to have a Livewire video card in here. And then let's just search for test. You can see we get this. It works fine, but if I search for something completely unrelated, it doesn't come up. So we're able to now search in here, which is really neat. Outside of that, we also want to make sure inside the navigation menu that we actually pass through the current result. So below the input, I want to say if str length and query is greater than 0 and count search results is greater than 0, then we will end the if condition, and here we will then have an absolute with a width full, background white, margin top of 1, border, shadow, rounded, and the shadow should actually be large. And we also just want to set a 50 because it needs to show at any given time. And in here, all we want to have is a div where we say wire click, and we need to make sure this isn't going to be in a Livewire component, so we're going to move that into a Livewire component in a minute. And we're going to say set query to result title, and we need to iterate through this div as well, so let's make sure we do that. So for each, search results as result, and then we're passing through the title here. So basically what I'm going to go ahead and do now is going to make sure that we have this Livewire component called menu. I'm going to go ahead and delete everything in there, and then in the navigation here we're going to pass this through. Then we're going to add the blade.php, and in here we just want to say Livewire navigation. And now we're just getting an error because we haven't created the backend code yet for this. So let's head into the Livewire navigation file. First and foremost, we want to have a public query. This is going to be a string. Set to null by default. Public array of search results. And then we want to on mount have a request, and then we want to say if request query, and then we want to set it to the query here. Then we want to say public function updated query. In here, if empty this query, then we want to say this search results, same as video search, this query get, and otherwise we want to say it's going to be empty. And I think we should set this as just non-type because it's not going to work that way. And then we want to have a public function in here which is going to be called setQuery, which is going to be another void function. And in here we just want to say this query equals query the search results is nothing because this is when we click on the drop down suggestion. And then we want to say this JavaScript because we need a timeout here. That was the best way I could figure out to work without bugging. So we're just running some JavaScript in here. We'll be setting that to 0. So let's take a look at what happens if we refresh now. Alright, so nothing is happening right now, so let's check why that may be. So if you go back into navigation here, we want to make sure that we set this as a wire model for the input here. And then you can see we get the suggestions drop down there. So one other thing we want to do is to avoid it coming up with all sort of weird suggestions that will essentially interfere with the user interface, we're going to have to say autocomplete off. If I click there, you can see, let's try again. It doesn't seem to be going to the page, so let's just make sure we got this correct here. Outside of that, inside here, we want to make sure that we don't go to the dashboard up here. We want to go to home. But yeah, so we've got the ability to get auto drop down, and we have the ability to search, watch trended videos. We're getting an error in here, so let's make sure that inside the video page component is working fine. So let's check why that is. So I think inside video page, I just want to go ahead and check here that we have everything we need. So we need the video player, so let's check that as well. Just making sure we have why this error is happening. So just gonna go into so we have the Livewire navigation in here just fine, and then we're passing through the slot down here below. And I think the reason why is because we're using this Livewire component, is we just want to say Livewire navigation in here as well. There we go. So we have the ability to upload videos now, like, dislike the video if you're logged in, and so on. So we've practically built an entire YouTube clone now, and there's only a few things left to do on it. So what I want to do as well is add some navigation links in here. So if we head into navigation here. Alright, so in here where we have the authenticated user, let's have a few drop down links. So we have an X menu item here for the account settings, but I also want to go in and find the root for the channel. And if we go into the navigation file again, I'm just going to close down some pages here. Oh, we just need to pass through this off user. If we then go in now and click, you can see we're getting to the channel, and this obviously is quite a big one here. I'm not going to say that's the best image I could have chosen for this. But as you can see, we can upload anything really. Just doesn't look very nice when it's that big, so we could make it smaller as well if we want to. We can customize the channel in here as well, so I'm gonna go in and just change this name here to your channel. And I want to go in and also change the icon here. So for this icon, let's use fas.user. And there we go. So we're now able to go into our own channel as well on top of everything else. And in the end, thank you for asking to comment what I'm using for the front end. I'm currently using Livewire 3 and Alpine.js, and also Blade as well. So that's the front end I'm using for this series. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything except for this could be put a bit down so we could center the search bar. There we go. So that's all for this live stream. Thank you very much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next one.